Hello, good morning everybody. My name is Mark Swetnam and I'm Managing Director at Cambridge Sensotec. I'm going to give you a little training video on some features of the Rapidox 6100 Pumpback SF6 Gas Analyser. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is a line purge. So the analyzer's been switched on for a few minutes, warmed up nicely, and a very important part of the analyzer is the sample hose. So this has got closed couplings on each end. It's a stainless steel Teflon lined hose, and on one end is connected to the switchgear and the other end connects to the Rapidox male and female rectus fittings. Now the hose ordinarily will be charged with gas from the previous test that you've done, or even when it's arrived new. So it's very important that you do a line purge. Now the line purging on this analyzer takes about 45 seconds and it will perform a vacuum purge using the pump. So the gas, any gas that's left inside the machine or inside this hose will be vacuumed out and discharged. Now it's sent out through this bypass port here. Now the gas is very small in volume, but if you do need to recover absolutely every spoonful of SF6, then you will need to connect a gas recovery bag to this port before you begin. So the first task is to connect the hose to the analyzer, but it's very important that you do not connect it to anything at the other end, because otherwise you run the risk of vacuuming out a switchgear, and there is a protection in this to prevent that from happening, but it's very important that you don't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the end I've got in my hand to the analyzer, and we do that over here, and you use both your fingers and you just pull the collar down and insert the rectus coupling. So now I've got the analyzer ready for a line purge. So to perform a line purge, we've now got the sample hose connected to the analyzer but not connected to anything else. So I simply press line purge, to which I get a message reminding me to connect a gas recovery bag to the bypass port should it be required. Press OK. The next screen will remind you that you must not connect the end of the hose to anything whatsoever. In this case we are operating in gas cylinder mode, and so there's a picture of a gas cylinder on the screen. When you're operating in GIS mode you will get a picture of a substation instead. And to perform the line purge I simply press OK, and the pump kicks in, and you can see that the vacuum builds up, and we should get at least 800 millibars of vacuum on this pump. So all the SF6 now has been evacuated from all the inner surfaces of the analyzer, and the line purging will take approximately 30 to 40 seconds to complete, and when it is completed we'll get a message saying that everything is complete and you can remove the gas recovery bag if you want to. I'm going to press OK, and the analyzer is now ready to do a measurement. So I have now completed a line purge on this analyzer, and it's ready to do a test. Now obviously it's very difficult for me to demonstrate a test inside an office like this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a test on a gas cylinder instead. And so I've got a gas cylinder here, it's been prepared, it's got a bit of SF6 in it. It's a small cylinder and it hasn't got a normal regulator on it, it's just got an on-off valve, and it's got a rectus fitting on it which is exactly the same as the ones that the dealer couplings have on it. So for the purposes of the test, we can pretend that this gas cylinder is actually a switchgear. However, because I'm using a small volume in a gas cylinder, I've put the analyzer into gas cylinder mode, which is accessible through the menu and options and the system settings. Now this does disable a few of the safety features of the analyzer, so it's only used for gas cylinder testing where the pressure is very low. And when you're in gas cylinder mode, you'll see that there is an icon in the top right hand corner of a gas cylinder. Right, so I've got my gas cylinder and the hose has been line purged. So assuming that we've got all the menu options set correctly, then we can go ahead and perform a test. I'm just going to show the menu one more. So I press menu, sampling, and here is the screen where we can adjust the parameters. And starting at the top, we have the mode, which is timed. There is an option to change this to continuous mode. Now continuous mode, the gas will enter on the inlet and exit through the bypass port and will not go into the storage bag. And this is normally used for testing the dew point sensor with nitrogen, so it's a continuous mode for calibration. So for all tests on GIS you would run a timed mode. The sample duration can be adjusted. Here it's set to 8 minutes. You can do the fastest test you can do is a 2-minute test. If I change that to 2, you'll see you get a warning saying that the dew point measurement is disabled for tests lasting less than 6 minutes. So in order to do successful dew point readings, we really do need a full 8 minutes of testing time, because there's a lot of water adsorbed onto the surfaces of the sample tube and the D-low coupling and the GIS itself, especially in hot and humid countries. So you can do faster tests, but you would only get SF6 and SO2 or any of the other toxic gases on the display at the end. So if I press OK, I'm going to put that back to 8 minutes because we're going to do a full test including water. So let me just return that to 8. You can see it's very easy. Press enter. Now the next option is a start delay. Now here you can enter a time, for example in minutes or seconds. So if I put 1 minute, then if you're required to not be present at the site where the test is being done, then this is a walk away period. So the analyzer will count down 60 seconds and then you would be allowed, then the analyzer would begin its test, which allows you time to walk away from the analyzer. Now because we're demonstrating this, I'm going to set that back to 0, so there's no delay. The line purge we've already done, so I'm going to keep this in manual, but you can do an automatic line purge before every test if you want. And likewise the pump back can also be set between auto and manual. Now I'm going to do a fully automatic test, which is how the default is. And I'm also going to ask it to print the results at the very end when it's completed the test. Now this test is just a single test, but you can do multiple tests if you want. I do recommend though that you keep the test at 1 and perform a line purge in between each test to get the most satisfactory results. This is especially important if you're in a hot and humid country where there's a lot of water in the atmosphere. In addition, you can also give a location name using the keypad. Say for example, if you were operating off a certain phase, or the circuit breaker or transformer or whatever has an identifying code that you want to enter, then this would appear in all the data files and it would also appear on the printout. We'll leave that for the moment. And then there's a custom test parameter here, which is to do with IEC and SIGRA tests. There are some preloaded ones here. and there's also a custom test that you can enter your own values into. When you do this and you enter some parameters, then you can name the test. So you could name it an ABB test or something, and then you can put the max and min values acceptable in here and save this test. And then at the end of the actual gas sampling test, and when it's performed a pump back, the screen will indicate to you that it's a pass or a fail situation. So as an example, I'm going to say SF6 value is greater than 98%. SO2 is less than 3 ppm, and H2O is less than minus, you do need to put the minus sign in, 28 CDP, and we can set that. I'm now all set to go, so I'm going to press set to save it, and then back to the main screen. We're now ready to perform an 8-minute test. So what I do is I press sample, and the analyzer tells me to connect the hose to the gas cylinder. As I explained previously, I am operating in gas cylinder mode because I have a gas cylinder here. So I'm going to take the rectus hose here and connect it to the gas cylinder and open the valve on the gas cylinder, and the pressure is rising up to 5 bar, 4.98 bar, and I then just press OK. Everything is being operated on batteries, as you can see. This is a battery powered instrument, and the screen now produces a clock which will count down 8 minutes, and then at the end of the 8 minutes we'll get the result, and the analyzer will perform an automatic pump back which will remove all the gas from the analyzer and put it back in the cylinder. Now if you change your mind or you made a mistake, you can press the abort button. You can see over here that the gas cylinder on the screen indicates that we're operating in gas cylinder mode, and the yellow message indicates what the machine is actually doing. So this is performing test 1 of 1. If you were performing multiple tests, for example 3, it would say test 1 of 3. Here we've got the information that we've just programmed in. We haven't got a location, and on the side here we've got a digital flow gauge, and you can see that the SF6 is flowing into the analyzer at 0.5 litres per minute. Here are the battery indicators. These are fully charged batteries. This one is for the Windows PC system, and this one here is for the pump back system. So here's the pressure gauge, and here is the gas storage gauge, and you can see as the test progresses then this will slowly rise up to the top, indicating that the storage bag is becoming more and more full. Now during the test itself we don't display any live data because the data can be quite unstable for a while. However, you can view the data on a live graph. This is the SF6 reading, which you can see is up at the top here. You can zoom in, and you can see it took about a minute to settle down, and we're already at 99% SF6. I'm going to press next. Here's the dew point reading. The dew point reading takes a while to settle down, and to produce the correct reading, as I mentioned before, you do need the full 8 minutes really to get the reading dry enough. Next. This is the SO2 reading, which is 0 ppm because there's no SF6 in this bottle. And finally we've got the gas pressure of the cylinder, and this is very slowly dropping, as you would expect, as the gas is removed from the cylinder. So I shall now press escape and come back to the menu. So we'll let this run for a little bit and then come back and see the progress at the end. Okay, so we rejoin the action with 30 seconds left of the test, the 8-minute test. You can see that the gas storage bag now is starting to get full. It will turn red after it's turned yellow, so there's nothing to concern yourself with. And when this is finished, when it countdowns to 0, then the pump will cut in and we will get to see the results on the screen. So we'll just let that happen. So the pump is now returning the gas from the storage bag to the gas compartment, which in my example is a gas cylinder. Depending on the pressure, this will take up to 2 or 3 minutes if it's very high pressure. So we just let that complete. So you can see that the message tells you it's pumping, and just out of shot is the printout of the results. You can see that the pump back is animated to indicate that it is emptying the bag, and you can see that the pressure is rising back up to approximately 5 bar. Okay, so the test is now finished and you get a message telling you that it is safe to disconnect. So I'm just going to disconnect the gas cylinder and remove the hose. So the hose is now removed again. And I'll click OK. And here we see the results. So we've also got a printout here of the results, as you can see. And we've got 99.2% SF6, which is a pass according to my test. H2O was minus 28.1, which is a pass according to my test. SO2 is also a pass at 0 ppm. So the pass-fail criteria are shown on the screen as well. And if you want to view the live data, then we press here. You can see a live graph, the graph of the SF6 for the whole 8 minutes. You can see that the reading was pretty stable even after 2 minutes. So it is possible to get very good readings after only 2 minutes for SF6. The water reading, as you can see, does take a little bit longer to settle down to give you an accurate reading. SO2 is 0 along the bottom because there's no SO2 in this gas, and the pressure reading is dropping slightly, as you would expect, as the gas cylinder slowly empties. Okay, and that is a test completed. So to now do the next test, we would then go to the next location, and then I'd begin the cycle again of doing a line purge first, then connecting the hose to the gas compartment and repeating the test. It's only necessary to press sample from now on, and all the tests that we've set up are remembered until the user reprograms the machine again. If you want a reprint of the printout, you can just press print. And if you want to change any of the parameters, this is in the menu system, which also includes the data logger. So if you want to review some data from the previous day or previous morning or something, then you can do a live on screen view, and I will demonstrate that in the next video. I'm going to demonstrate to you some of the basic menu functions on this Pumpback Analyser. These are all accessed using the soft key menu from the main screen. Just tap there, and we have some options here, as you can see: calibrate, data log, auto abort, sampling, set the units, date and time, password, and then another menu which has got some more system options such as changing the language, the brightness, running diagnostics and the colour of the screen, etc. So we'll start with the data log side. So if you want to review any data while you're out in the field, don't forget that you can transfer the data onto a memory stick using the USB port on the side of the analyzer. But to actually view them on the screen itself, then if you press data log, and this will show you any files saved in a week. So if I press today, which is the 16th of November, you can see we get a single icon. Just tap on that and it will tell me that there's 2 tests being done today. So I'll press go, and these are then listed on the next screen, and you've got a couple of options here. You can show the results, and you can also reprint them, and you can also view the graph. So I've just managed to reprint the first one, and 99.8. If I tap on the second one and reprint. So the gas analyzer stores indefinitely test results as at least a year's worth of tests, even if you did use the analyzer every day. So these are very similar results. Now you can see at the top it says if there's a star there, then there is a summary available. All that means is it is a successful test that has got real data in it. So for example, if you aborted a test, then that data would also be here, but you would not have a star at the end, so you wouldn't have a complete set of results. Now before I do any graphing, you can choose which gases, so if you don't want the gas pressure on the graph, then say no. And then if I select the one done at 7:31 this morning, we press graph sample, and it does take a moment to redraw, but you can see that you get the data of all the gases including SO2, which is down on the bottom in yellow, and so you get a visual appearance of all 3, or up to 8 gases actually if it's an 8 gas analyzer. If you press next, you'll get the individuals. So here's the SF6 reading, here's the water reading, and finally the individual SO2 reading, and it goes back to the all 3. You can also show results, which is a screen version of what you get on your printouts. If I select the top one and press show results, you can see on the screen now it gives you a summary which you can then print. And if there's lots of tests done in a single day, you've got up and down buttons to find the file of interest. And that is the data log function of the analyzer. The next thing I'm going to show you is the auto abort function. So this is a 3 gas analyzer, and it only has one toxic gas measurement, which is SO2, but we do versions with HF, H2S and carbon monoxide CO. So for safety reasons, if you do a test on a gas compartment and there's a large amount of toxic gas which overwhelms the analyzer, then you can set a limit where you will stop the test immediately whether you're there or not, and you can also ask it to automatically pump back. And this is really to stop the analyzer becoming contaminated with unwanted gas. So at the moment this is set to 100 ppm, but if I, for example, set it to 10 ppm, then, and there's enable disable function. So the SO2, if we get a reading that goes above 10 ppm during a test, then in this situation the analyzer will stop and it will automatically pump back without your permission. So it will reject the sample before any damage or long-term contamination happens. And so this is a particularly useful function which the user can adjust themselves. The default as it leaves the factory is the full scale of the sensor, which in SO2 is 100. Press set to save, back. The next menu option I'm going to show you are the units. Now, we press here, we can modify how they appear on the screen. So we can adjust the number of decimal places from 0 to 1 to 2. The default is 1. You've also got some options here to change the units of measurement. So for SF6 and SO2 they are locked at percent and ppm and greyed out. But if you want to change to Fahrenheit, for example, for dew point, or to ppmv, which a lot of people use, then you just tap here. Likewise, if you want to use bar, psi, torr, kilopascals, megapascals, millibar, so we set it to bar, for example. If we now go back, the screen will now update with the units that you've selected, so you can see it now says 455 ppmv. While I'm on this screen, you can actually also do the same thing by tapping on the units. So if I tap on the word bar, I can change it to psi, to torr, to kilopascals, megapascals, millibar, back to bar. So it's a convenient way of accessing without going into the menu different units. ppm weight of water, and then there's also dew point corrected to a universal standard 20 degrees Celsius, which is possible on this analyzer, and some customers do require this. If you're operating in an extremely hot country that's very humid, like India for example, then it is recommended that you perform dew point tests corrected to 20 degrees Celsius. In this room here, where the temperature is not far off 20 degrees, then there will be very little difference in the readings. Okay, come back to the menu now. So the next option on the list is the date and time. I'm going to skip the scat sampling because I've also already discussed that in detail in the previous video. Press date and time. It's pretty obvious what you need to do here if the date and time is wrong. Now these are sent out of the factory set to your time zone where this analyzer is to be shipped to. And there's different day formulas and there's different delimiters here, so you can set the date and time up as you like. You can see that the date and time is shown in the bottom right left hand screen. It's important that the date and time are set correctly for data logging purposes. Also note that if the analyzer continuously, when you switch it on, seems to have reset the date back to 2006, then this indicates that the BIOS battery of the Windows PC has reached the end of its life and can be replaced. Now that is a replaceable item. It is a standard service item, and the battery is easily accessible. It is actually located in a position on the back of the machine, so it can be replaced fairly easily. The batteries that we currently fit are designed to last 5 years, but this does depend on the temperature of the country that they're in and a few other parameters as well. So normally these would get replaced every couple of years. Okay, next menu I'm going to show you is the password menu, which is quite important. You can see from this screen that a couple of the menus have padlocks on them, like the calibrate menu for example. So if the calibrate menu has got a padlock on it, then it means that you need to know the password to enter it. So I will deal with calibration in a different video, by the way. So we press the password menu and it asks you for an admin password, which in most cases is set to the factory as 888848. Press enter, and we are now allowed to reset or change any of the passwords. So you can see at the moment that the user password on this machine is set to 1234. The admin password is 8888. These can both be reset by the administrator, and we can set some of the important menus to be password protected. So for example, if I want the auto abort to be a user option for password. If we now press set and back, we'll see that the auto abort now has a padlock on it. Now the next menu I'm going to show you is the options menu. Now this is subdivided. So the first menu option is data transfer. Now the data transfer menu is greyed out because there is no memory stick in the side of the instrument. You need to install the memory stick. So if I just get one. We have a standard memory stick here available. I insert it into the side of the instrument over here in the USB socket, and when I do, it will light up and flash, and hopefully if it's an acceptable memory stick, then the data transfer menu has now become white. If I now press data transfer, I can now choose a date range for this instrument. So at the moment it's set to today, which is the default. So if I want to copy the test that I've done this morning, I can either copy the results, or I can copy the data, or I can do both. If you're sending data to Cambridge Sensotec for analysis, I need you to press the copy data button, which is what I'm going to do now. So I press it, and it's quite fast, as you can see, and it now says USB drive is safe to remove. So I shall now pull that out. And this memory stick now contains a CSV file which I can open Microsoft Excel and have a look at the readings. Language. These analyzers have a variety of languages installed on them, and the font is loaded to show the correct name of the language file which you need to select. When you select a language other than English, then the analyzer will need to reboot to operate in that language because it is a Windows system file. The brightness of the screen. Now at the moment, because I'm videoing, I've disabled the screensaver, but normally this analyzer by default would have a screensaver enabled and it would be set to 5 minutes, and you can do that by enabling or disabling like this. And if you change the screensaver settings, they will only normally start next time you reboot the analyzer. You can see that you can change the brightness of the screen, and the default is the middle setting, I think. Now the screen does use a lot of battery power, so it's always advisable to have the screensaver enabled, because this will make the screen go dark when you are not using the analyzer to do a test. And so I've changed it to enabled, and it says changes will only take effect after a reboot. It's just reminding you. Okay, I've got screen colour. You can change different colours, which is instant if you like. That's the blue. The black and white is quite good for videoing purposes, so we'll leave it as it is. The diagnostics screen is very useful. So this has live information from parameters on the circuit boards and the data. If you insert a memory stick into the port again, you can save the diagnostics. So let's just check that works. I shall reinsert the memory stick, and you can see that the button goes white, and I've pressed save, and it's now copying diagnostics onto the data file. When I press escape, it will stop doing it. So if you want to run diagnostics for a few minutes, you can just leave it like this with the memory stick installed. The memory stick is just out of sight of the camera, but it is actually flashing away at the moment. So I will press escape and leave that one. The restore button is to be used only if something very strange has happened to the analyzer and we advise you to restore it. It is a password protected menu, and if I go into there, it will say, do you want to restore this machine to factory settings? And if I press yes, then there is no going back. The About screen is quite important because it does tell you information about the calibrations. So you can see here that this analyzer has got 100% storage free. It tells you how many hours the pump has been used, and it also tells you that the sensor life of the SF6 is another 2,000 days, just under 1,800 days, and the calibration is due in November 2021. And when these dates are timed out, then there will be a message on the analyzer saying that the certain sensors are due for calibration. Press more info, and then this will be something that you can either take a photograph of or print, because it gives information about the sensors that are connected and the COM ports and things that the Windows PC is using, and we can print that. And you do get quite an extensive printout, which is about 30 centimeters long. The system control menu is a password protected menu, and if I press 888, press enter, I've got some fundamental system options here. One is a purge, which may ask you to attach a nitrogen gas bottle, and this allows the whole analyzer to be purged of gas. Also, we've got the auto nitrogen cleaning system. So if you have got a nitrogen gas cylinder available and you've had an event where you perhaps have had SO2 contamination, then what you can do is run a nitrogen system clean, and this will continue to purge nitrogen over all the sensors and over all the surfaces inside until the readings of the toxic gas sensors settle back down to 0. And this is quite useful because some of these gases are quite sticky, for example HF, and it does take a lot of purging and drying to get rid of them. One of the things you can do on this is display the balance gas. And also you can see that we've got the gas cylinder testing option here. So I'm going to set that to no, because this is not normally how you should operate the machine. It does disable some safety features. I can say yes there and then press set, and you can see that the analyzer requires a reboot to display the balance gas. Now the balance gas will be always assumed to be air. So if you had a reading of 90% SF6, it would then display 10% air as the balance. So the balance will always total 100% as a mathematical balance. Most of these system menu options, as you can see, do require a reboot of the gas analyzer, which does take a moment. Likewise, if you're changing the language, also a reboot is required. So you can see that the screen has reorganized itself to now show a balance gas, which isn't a default feature, and it's nitrogen. If I now select the units, the balance gas appears in this, and it says balance gases, nitrogen or air. This is a useful feature if you're operating in a country where you're deliberately mixing nitrogen and SF6 together. So for example, 75% SF6, 25% nitrogen. This function would then allow you to do measurements of those two gases in that situation. But I'll set it to air, and you can see that the screen now refers to the balance gas as air. I'm going to show you how to do a in-field span calibration of the SF6 sensor, should it be required. Now, all gas sensors, no matter what the gas is or who the manufacturer is, will drift to some degree over time, and they do need periodic re-spanning, and the SF6 sensor is no exception. And this is mainly due to effects of temperature and to a lesser degree atmospheric pressure and conditions where you are, but the temperature, if it's wildly different from the temperature in the UK, then there can be a noticeable drift on the sensor, which can be reset in the country of operation. And I'm going to show you how to do that using a gas cylinder that I've got here, which contains pure SF6. So the procedure is quite simple. I've got a gas bottle with SF6 connected to it, and I've connected this to the analyzer, and I've opened up the valve, and you can see that we've got about 5 bar of gas pressure going into the analyzer at the moment. So I'm going to go to menu, I'm going to go to calibrate, and we need to enter the administration password, which the default is 8888. Press enter, and we need to select the sensor that we're going to calibrate, which in this case is SF6 100%. Now, it will be possible to change the calibration value if 100% is not what you want. So for example, if you wanted to, if this gas cylinder had SF6 at 75% and 25% nitrogen, and it was a certified cal gas mixture, then it would be possible to change the SF6 value to 75%, and that's done on the live screen following this one. But for the moment, if we just press the SF6 span, it tells me to make sure I've got my gas bottle connected, which I've already done, and now I press OK, and the gas is allowed to flow into the analyzer. So the test gas goes into the gas storage bag, it's not released, and so you've got, with a 5 litre gas storage bag operating at half a litre per minute, you will have up to 10 minutes to do the calibration, and you shouldn't need anywhere near that amount of time. It should take only 2 or 3 minutes tops to perform a calibration. So we've got a live screen on here. Now, being as it's 100%, it's right up at the top, but you can press zoom to improve the screen reading, and you can see that the moment that the valves open, then the reading does shoot off scale for a moment before it recovers and settles down. We do need to leave this running for a moment to let the SF6 reading flatten and stabilize. Now, as I was saying earlier, if you want to change the concentration, it's currently set up at the top here. It says calibration gas equals 100%, and you can see here this is the live reading, 98.25%, and you can see it's still changing a little bit, so we're not ready to calibrate just yet. If I press conc for concentration, I can actually change it. So I could change it to 90%, for example. It now expects my gas bottle to be 90%, which it isn't, it's 100, so I'm going to put this back so we don't cause any confusion. So I'm changing it back to 100%, press enter. So always check what the calibration gas value is, because if you change it, then the machine will remember what the value was, and it will refer to that the next time that you do a calibration. So if you're repeatedly calibrating, you won't need to do any of this. It will all be remembered by the analyzer. So at some point this reading will become relatively flat, and this is a very, very focused scale. And once you're satisfied that it's pretty stable, it's about 99.4, I reckon. Very, very slight oscillation of just a less than 0.1% there. When I'm ready to press calibrate, all I do is press the calibrate button, and the analyzer will then save the value. And if you watch the screen, you'll see that it will press OK. It's now reset it exactly to 100. You can see that the real reading will go over 100 just as much as it will go under 100, and the analyzer is accurate within approximately 0.5%. So I'm going to carry on watching it, because if it looks like I've done it too soon, maybe I can press calibrate again, and this time we're there or thereabouts at 99, 100, 99.9 is a pretty good calibration. When I'm finished, I'm just going to press back, and it tells me that it's now safe to disconnect the hose from the gas bottle, which I shall do. So I've switched off the gas bottle, removed the hose, and the calibration is now complete. Now, if I try to do a sample, because I've got some gas inside the bag, you'll see that one thing that will happen is that it'll tell me please pump back before performing another test. So you now get the opportunity to either, the test gas can either be pumped back into a gas recovery bag, or you can pump it back into the gas bottle, which is probably not recommended if it's a calibration gas bottle. And you can see the analyzer just will not let me do anything until I pump back. So if you ever need to reset a calibration with an existing calibration that somebody else has done, or it was done on a previous day, for example, then that is possible. So I'm going to press calibrate, put the password menu in. On this occasion I'm going to press load, and you can see that at the moment the only one that's saved on this analyzer is the factory calibration. So let's press factory, enter, and it asks me to confirm that I want to overwrite the calibration that I just did a few minutes ago with the one that the factory has done. Now, because this is a demonstration and this is a brand new analyzer and the guys in the factory know how to do it better than me, I'm going to say yes, so I shall put the calibration back to how it was. That's it. And now the analyzer is ready for use once again.